Well, we are back again for another one of these streams that I'm trying to stick to for the next few weeks. So pretty much, as I said, the last stream we done of these, pretty much when there's enough to talk about, I'm just gonna boot one of these streams up and just go through, the stuff that's going on. Which, of course, yeah, we got a few things to sort of catch up on, I guess. Although, well, there was this one of these articles came out a few days ago, but it's probably worth going over. How's it going, Biffa? But it's not. I suppose we haven't got big things to talk about. We got some DCU things, announcements to talk about, which with a lot of that stuff, it's like I don't really think anybody cares. So that's probably not going to take long to talk about. But I think the main thing really is, since we went over Echo on Saturday, we've had we've had one article come out that's, again, just, it really is just showcases why Marvel currently are as shit as they are. It's many, many things, but there's, one that's quite high up there. So that will probably take a bit of time to go over. And there was that Kill the Justice League game that came out. I don't think people are very happy about that game. And I have to kind of agree with it because, I've got a clip for, what we're going to look at. And yeah, I'm glad I'm not going to buy that game. Because it looks fucking terrible. So that's kind of most of what we're going to go over. But, other than that, it's not been too busy, I suppose. There's a few things. It's starting to pick up, I think, the news cycle. Things are starting to get moving. Because it's just completely desolate this year. Until we sort of reach the summer, there's not really much going on, at least, Hollywood-wise. It's just a desert, a complete desert. I mean, the only thing of note we've got sort of, I guess the first quarter of the year is Dune Part 2. That's it. That's all there is at the moment. It's not really. It's going to pick up at some point. But it seems with most of the news stuff, it's starting to get a move on. Things are starting to happen. Just most of it not very good things. But yeah, I reckon we're not in. We're probably in for a worse year this year than we were last year. Just with the, some of the stuff that's coming out, there's just not much of interest, really. But yeah, I kind of picked, I think I picked the wrong year to start up a channel where I do reviews, because it's just fuck all at the moment. We've got Madam Web in 2 weeks, I think. Other than that, I'm still trying to think of, right, what can I do for a video here? I put out the Marvels review. I need to get something else up on this channel, so I'm still trying to. That's what I'm going to try and figure out once I've done this stream. What can I review? I'm kind of split in between Arcane and House of the Dragon, because it kind of makes sense to do something for those. So that's what I've got to figure out. But I suppose we'll jump into some of this stuff anyway. I think we're probably better off starting with the casting news. The brilliant casting news for the new Supergirl. And again, it's just like, we've kind of went over this before. It's like, even if they cast well, it's like, what does it really matter? What does it really, does it gain any interest? Because I really don't think it does. Because what we got, Superman, that's the one that's coming out first. Again, it's just, Warner Brothers are, again, that backwards. As soon as, just the superhero genre in general is, losing any audience whatsoever, it's just kind of, right, so now now you're gonna, well, we're gonna get things right now, after it's all gone to shit. So I reckon when that Superman film comes out, I don't think it's going to do well for its, like, opening weekend. I think it's really going to depend on, if it's any good, the sort of word of mouth. I think if it doesn't get that, it's going to be a waste of money, a waste of time. So even with, as I say, with a lot of this casting stuff, it doesn't really mean anything at the moment. It means fuck all if you get, if you get the right people for this cast. It's like, yeah, it doesn't really move the needle in the way that they would like to. So the recent stuff we've had is the new Supergirl. That's now been announced, because that's, what is that? I think it's the third or fourth film that I think the DCU is going to do. I don't really understand, why in your sort of first phase you would go, right, we need a Supergirl film. Out of all the ones you could do, I don't know why you'd go with that one. That's something that you maybe do in phase 2 or 3, not to begin with. And from what I understand, it's this Supergirl film that they are doing is adapted from, I believe, this comic, which, as I've heard, isn't very good. So that's, that can't really bode well. But yes, Supergirl, New Woman of Steel, is House of the Dragon's Millie Alcock. As far as the casting goes, yeah, I quite like her. And I really, really liked her in House of the Dragon. I mean, I think she looks the part. She's got that kind of, I guess, Supergirl look going on, from some of the pictures. But that's who they've got. House of the Dragon actress Millie Alcock has landed the coveted role of Supergirl in James Gunn and Peter Safran's new DC universe. The Australia-born Alcock played the young, we know that, Rhaenyra. She beat out Coda actress Amelia Jones and Meg Donnelly. I don't know who those two are. The latter, who voiced Supergirl in such DC animated movies as Legion of Superheroes and Crisis on Infinite Earths Part 1. Let's see if they actually really... there's been buzz that the new Supergirl will appear in Gunn's Superman Legacy, because apparently there's like 1,000 characters that they're throwing into that film. That's where it's already like, oh yeah, you've gone wrong already. You've made the same mistake that the DCU did, where it's like they want to get to that final stage too quickly. If you look at who's been cast in Superman Legacy, there's like, what, about 20 characters. You've got, I'm trying to remember them now. I can't remember them, but there's just loads and loads. You got Green Lantern. You got people like that in there. Mr. Terrific. Okay. So it seems like they're already going down that route of trying to do too much at once. It depends. See if it's the odd cameo. Maybe they're in one scene. But if it's like, oh no, we've just got, all these different people throughout the entire film, so Superman ends up with less focus than what he should have. Which is about to go before the cameras in Georgia, but that's not 100%. What we know now is that she'll appear in a DC-based project before starring in her solo feature, Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow. No director has been announced for Supergirl. The kind of people they've got attached to a lot of these projects isn't very good. I mean, you've got the woman that wrote Birds of Prey and The Flash. I don't know if she wrote the entirety of The Flash, because it was rewritten that many times. It's hard to tell. But you've got people like that, so it's not a very good writer's room, should we say. The sort of people that they've got, sort of in these meetings, figuring out, what they're going to do. It's based on Tom King's 2022 comic book series, on which Blakey Everly was the illustrator. Said Gunn at the time of the announcement, "In our series, we see the difference between Superman, who was sent to Earth and raised by loving parents from the time he was an infant, versus Supergirl, who was raised on a rock, a chip off Krypton, and watched everyone around her die and be killed in terrible ways for the first 14 years of her life. And then she came to it." So, yeah, I find it funny with that. Oh, we're not doing origin stories. Although, I suppose, it doesn't really confirm that, does it? Which, you know, I have to agree, I'm tired of fucking origin stories. You know, especially if it's characters where it's like, yeah, we've had about, you know, they've had about 3 different adaptations. It's like, you know, we kind of seen it now. But yeah, it's, you know, again, you haven't really got much to go on. But that is apparently who they have for Supergirl, and I'm already out of things to say about it, to be honest. Again, it's just like, oh yeah, you casted someone that you know, I kind of look at people and I'm just like, you know, what, if you want a very good career, you know, especially in this landscape, I don't really understand the choice to go, right, I'll play Supergirl. You know, I don't know why you'd want to, you know, unless you just haven't got anything else going on. I don't know why you'd want to go and work on a superhero film. It's like, at the moment, that's where careers go to die. You know, you're not really getting yourself a lot further after that. You know, unless you're, you know, a top tier actor. Other than that, it's just like, yeah, you'll maybe do that for a few years, but, you know, after that, it's going to pretty much fizzle out. So, I wouldn't advise people to go and work in, you know, on superhero films. It's a waste of fucking time. It's a waste of time and effort. But that's who they've cast for Supergirl. I knew I'd have barely anything to say, because it's just like, oh yeah, you casted this person, all right. Unfortunately, it's, you know, it's all going to come down to the quality of it, which, you know, that's kind of questionable. You know, James Gunn can put out some good stuff. At the same time, he can be, you know, he's not that consistent. You know, it's not consistent, you know, good film after good film. It's very hit and miss, I think you find with James Gunn. And some of the stuff that's been said, you know, not very good. But that's who they've cast for Supergirl. Again, it's just like they're doing this at the wrong time. It's like they would be better off just moving on. Just go, fuck it, we'll just do a Batman film. You know, if that's what I do in Warner Brothers situation, in the landscape of the superhero genre, I'd just go, we'll just do the odd Batman film. How about that? You know, that may, you know, we may be better off with that, rather than putting about 20 projects into production at the same time, because that's a sure way to fail. You know, as we've seen with Marvel. Oh, we're going to start making lots and lots of projects without really, you know, they kind of get to the point where it's like, all right, you've already pumped all this money into it, so, you know, you just kind of have to stick with it now. You know, I really don't know what Marvel were thinking with that, but it was kind of the, oh, we've got to keep having stuff coming out, otherwise people are going to lose interest. Little did they know, you know, it would have the opposite effect. That by having so much stuff, they lost interest. But that's where, you know, again, they went wrong with the, you know, in terms of DC, we're going to have this 8-year plan. It's like, just, how about a movie? Just do a movie, go, oh, that wasn't too bad, that. You know, people responded to it well, it was somewhat successful. Right, let's do the next one. I just don't understand this. No, we must have a film come out every year. You know, or you know, if it's 2 films. We must have 2 films out in the year, plus 3 TV series. It's just like, why? You know, you kind of go back to years ago. It's like, when sequels were getting made, it was like 4 or 5 years later. But now it's just become this thing. It's, oh no, we've got to have something for next year and the year after, rather than going, no, we can take a few years. You know, there's no rush. But that's just what it's become. And it's like, you know, with the dwindling interest in it, you would think they would realize, right, let's just take our time a bit. But instead, it looks like they're just making the same mistakes. Marvel's wasted so many. I mean, you know, again, you can, like, Kate Blanchett and Christian Bale can go and do, like, a Marvel film, but they're going to be fine. You know, that's not going to do any damage to their career, because it's fucking Christian Bale and Kate Blanchett. So it's like, they're always going to be fine, pretty much no matter what they do. You know, that's kind of, and it's not really like that for a lot of people, where they have that ability, I mean, again, you can have someone like Anthony Hopkins. You know, he's been in a lot of good films and a lot of terrible films, but it's never done damage to his career because how good he is. I mean, that's kind of what you notice with someone like that. It's like even if they're in terrible films, it's like they're usually the best part of it. So it's like then, yeah, they're never really going to be affected by that. Whereas it's yeah, for sort of up and coming actors, it's kind of like yeah, maybe don't do that. You know, it's not really going to do wonders for your career. I mean, because that's what I know there was. So I think that's what Leonardo DiCaprio told like Timothy Chalamet: don't do superhero films. And again, it's like yeah, you're better off not doing that because I think people just take you less seriously. Which you know shouldn't necessarily be the case, but it's just when there's no interest in it, who's going to see you really. But yeah, fucking superhero stuff. Which we've got more superhero stuff. It's always superhero stuff going on this channel. I really can't wait for just the next thing. To be honest, it's fucking dire. Which, I mean, we've went over it, you know, it's mainly just video game adaptations seem to be the next thing. When you look at the amount that's coming out. You know, we had The Last of Us, we had Arcane. Those are really the only two that, have panned out. I'm trying to think of the other ones. You know, you had the Mario movie. I still haven't seen it yet, so I can't really say. But that seems the way it's going. I mean, in April we've got Fallout. I've never played the games, but I'm pretty sure the Fallout TV show is going to be pretty terrible when you've got a writer that wrote Captain Marvel, the 2019 film. Pretty sure it's going to be terrible, like absolutely fucking terrible. Not gonna, yeah. I don't think that one's going to pan out, unfortunately. But yeah, this was the sort of main thing I wanted to get into. Again, it's just the usual stuff that you expect. You know, we'll kind of read into it, and then we can kind of go into it. But as this article says, how Echo EP Marion Daya brought a bit of better. Let me try and read that again. How Echo EP Marion Daya brought a bit of Better Call Saul to the MCU. I personally I find that funny that you wrote for Better Call Saul, and with Echo you ended up with this. You know, it really does show why you need a fucking showrunner, because I think a lot of stuff that whether it is Better Call Saul, Breaking Bad, that could have been fucking terrible if it didn't have someone like Vince Gilligan running the show. And that's where we've had our problems with Marvel. Because they haven't had any showrunners to watch over these fucking imbeciles. To sort of, point them in the right direction. Because, it's the same with Rings of Power. It's like you had a Breaking Bad writer. I'm pretty sure it was. And, like, the episodes she wrote were fucking awful. So it really does say how a lot of these writers are sort of only as good as, the people that are watching over them. Even before the MC officially declared Netflix's Daredevil canon, which I just don't accept anymore, the former Better Call Saul writer and her Echo writer's room, get this, watched a supercut of Kingpin's scenes to help them prepare for the show. They didn't think, oh, we'll watch the entire fucking show. They went, oh, supercuts are enough. Because that has context in them, having a supercut. And I don't really know how they're, like, it seems the Hollywood Reporter are trying to paint this as, oh, look, they actually, it's like, no, they watched the supercut. It's like you're missing out on so much context that shows why Kingpin is acted the way he does. But they watched the supercut, guys. That's why it turned out so well, didn't it? So again, it's just it's just more evidence that these people don't watch anything. If they're doing some sort of continuation, they're not even they're not paying any attention to what's actually happened previously. No, that's why Kingpin is suddenly out of jail for some reason, and we don't know why that is. So yeah, that right there, I'm just like, for fuck's sake. It's like, it's so incompetent. And it, again, it just seems like they're trying to paint this as some sort of win. It's like, look, they done research. It's like, no, they didn't. I don't know why you wouldn't just watch the whole show. There are certain television shows that people within the entertainment industry all watch and admire. And one of those shows was Better Call Saul, the celebrated prequel-sequel to the almighty Breaking Bad. The number of influential filmmakers who watched it, at least a mile long, and the brass at Marvel Studios are all included in that group. They're all shit, though. So it was hardly a surprise when Marvel sought out sole writer-producer Marion Daya to lead the writer's room of Echo. That isn't a win. Again, it's just like, yeah, they're only as good as the showrunners are. A mature miniseries that centered on Maya Lopez, who was first introduced as Fisk's Death Enforcer. I don't even buy that Wilson Fisk would employ this woman to sort of be his enforcer. It's like she's just some, nothing special. But we went over that on Saturday. It's like, it made no sense why Kingpin wanted this girl so badly. Just, it didn't make any sense whatsoever. She isn't special, doesn't have any, any out of the ordinary abilities. Just some fucking woman. That would have changed if they actually gave her the skills that she had from the comics. Then it would be like, yeah, she has something there. But in the context of, but in the context of the MCU, it's like she's just some random woman. She's just some woman. She's got one leg and she's deaf. Like there's no like, I can echo other people's abilities. If you could do that, then it would make sense why Kingpin would want you. But apparently, according to the people that worked on this show, that was boring. That was lame. Those powers were lame. So what we did was we gave her the most generic powers we could think of. The most boring ones that is, nothing unique. It's just like, even with the powers that they give her in the Echo series, it's like, we don't really know what they are. Like, you can only really pull from it some type of healing, strength, and apparently mind powers. Other than that, it's like, right, so what are these exact powers, though? They don't explain it. Under the tutelage of Soul co-creators Vince Gilligan and Peter Gould, I think that's one of those situations where Vince Gilligan must be a bit embarrassed. That someone that worked under him went on to do what they done with Echo. Daya became a 2-time WGA award-nominated TV writer, and she came up with this. I'm just, again, confused. She first co-wrote Season 2's Click, which puts Mike Ehrmantraut on a collision course with Gus Fring, via a simple note on the form, so we're just kind of getting into that stuff. So Marvel, for their most grounded drama to date, we went over it Saturday. It's nothing grounded about it. It goes all mystical at the end. We've got aliens at the opening of the series. It's not very grounded. Wanted a similar character-driven approach to Maya. Fucking hell. How much stuff do they say that about? That was the main thing that they said about Obi-Wan Kenobi. It's like, it's very character-driven. It's not, though. And it's even less so with Echo. I don't know how you can go about claiming, we wanted a similar character-driven approach. She's not a character, so there's nothing character-driven about it. You haven't actually given her a character, because they seem to think that her being, a Native American and deaf and having one leg, they thought that was enough. They thought that was the character. They didn't actually give her a personality. She just walks about and scowls at everyone. That's about it. She doesn't actually have any characteristics. You know, there's nothing there where it's like, oh, that's a person, that is. It's like the furthest thing from a person as you could get. Her indigenous family and her surrogate father, Fisk. No. Again, I don't accept that she was... That when I was watching Daredevil, that this Echo was in there, having Sunday dinners with him every week. I don't buy it at all. It doesn't match the show. And it pretty much shows that they did only watch a supercut of Daredevil with Kingpin, when they can't even figure that out. You know, we again went over on Saturday. It's like in the first season of Daredevil, he was lonely. He didn't have anyone until he met Vanessa. So if you're trying to make the claim, oh, that no, actually he had this surrogate daughter, it's like, well, that doesn't really add up then, does it? Why would he be as lonely as he was if he had her in his life? So none of that even sort of makes sense to the show. But who's this talking? Yeah, so this is the person that said they watched the supercut and they thought that was enough. She says, there were several instances where we talked about character development in the vein of Better Call Saul. Fuck off. Do they just delude themselves? Is that it? Do they just delude themselves into thinking what they've done is as good as, you know, what has been done with Better Call Saul or Breaking Bad? You know, it seems very delusional that, oh, well, we thought of Better Call Saul when we did this. Well, you couldn't have. You know, there was no way you could have thought of Better Call Saul, and this is what you produced. Marvel were very familiar with the Better Call Saul characters. We were all like, let's make Echo a grounded character story. It's not that. And something that is different from what we've seen before. No different from what we've seen before. It's the fucking same sludge. It's the exact same sludge. I'm already getting annoyed. This is just, you know, either lying to us or lying to yourself. But that's, you know, they say it about everything. Oh, it's different from what we've seen. No, it's not. It's the same. It's no different. Let's really let Maya tell her truth. Did she do that? I don't remember her doing that. I don't really remember her doing anything. So, of course, that really spoke to me after coming from Vince and Peter's camp. They'd be fucking embarrassed. Marvel boss Kevin Feige has previously talked about Saul's influence on Black Widow. Again, just lies. Just keep lying to yourself. That's not what it is. Every time something comes out, they compare stuff to good stuff. You know, I'm pretty sure Wakanda Forever, that was compared to The Godfather. And it's like, where the fuck did you get that from? I don't know where you got that from. But every project they do, it's like, oh, this is what it's like, and it's nothing like it at all. While Loki executive producer Kevin R. Wright has followed suit in regard to his own beloved MCU series. Hawkeye EP Trin Tran also told THR that Tony Dalton's scene-stealing baddie on Soul, Lalo Salamanca, factored into the actor's casting on that 2021 series. Michael Mando, who played the fan favorite character of, I still haven't seen. I still haven't finished Better Call Saul, so I don't even know. I can't remember who some of these people are. Also portrayed Max Scorpion Gargan in Spider-Man Homecoming, and Bad and Soul's Emmy-winning editor Kelly Dixon helped cut the Falcon and the Winter Soldier and Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. Daya, who's from the same state of Nebraska, so they're just going into stuff. It's just, oh, we took influence from Better Call Saul, even though we didn't. Let's try and skip some of this because they just keep going on about it. With significant opportunities waiting in the wings, Daya departed Saul after season 5, its most critically acclaimed season to that point, which meant that she got to enjoy the subsequent final season as a fan. Just didn't take any of that with her. Heading into the final season, we knew that Jimmy was going to have a redemption arc and that Kim... Right, you did a redemption arc. You didn't think that was necessary with Echo, a murderer. You didn't think, oh, we have to send her on some type of redemption here. Otherwise, people won't take her serious as being this hero at the end of the show. Again, it's, you know, it just proves, it really does just say how important a good showrunner is. You know, having someone that's good at what they do in charge, because without that, it's just, you know, you end up with this. But I didn't know about the Marion character, so, you know, whatever. It's just going on about Better Call Saul. And trying to convince herself that that's the show she came up with. Below, during a recent spoiler conversation with THR, Dea also discusses Echo's diverse writers' room. That failed. You know, so much for, you know, diversity is our strength, because it clearly isn't. And how it informed Maya's journey. To be honest, you know, you can have as many diverse people. That doesn't really mean they understand human behavior, you know, or what a person is. Then she explains why Charlie Cox, Matt Daredevil Murdoch could only serve a small yet impactful role. Well, we know why, because people are more interested in him than fucking Echo. So let's go through some of this interview, see what, you know, shite gets said. They ask her, when you left Better Call Saul following season 5, did you have some sense that new opportunities were on the horizon? I did know, but I had no idea that something like Echo was in store. Yeah, it honestly is just deluding yourself into thinking, oh, that's a great opportunity. Working on a dying Marvel project. There were some other opportunities on the table, but it's always just a surprise. So it was a failure of imagination to try and lay out the path of what my next several years would look like. And it's been wild and amazing. No, it honestly sounds depressing. How did the ball get rolling on Echo? They reached out to me and they asked me to come in for a meeting. I didn't know what project it was for until I agreed to take the meeting, and I was thrilled when I found out that it was for Echo. I found it fun. I'm like, you probably didn't even know who that was, did you? You probably, when they said, oh, Echo, you're probably like, who the fuck's that? Because the majority of people don't know who that is. I didn't know who it was until she was in Hawkeye. You know, most people just don't know who the fuck it is. I could have been more excited. I couldn't have been more excited to work with this character and play in a sandbox like this. I'm also a fan of co-creator Echo comic character David W. Mack from way back. And I'm lucky, and this is what you've done. Fucking hell. And I'm lucky to have gotten to know him in the course of this. So I was really excited about this character because the slate was so open. There was an open sky, and we didn't know a whole lot about her. Yeah, you know, I find it funny. She's talking up this guy. Oh, fuck me. She's talking up this guy, the, you know, co-creator of the Echo comic character. Yet people on your team said her powers from that were lame. You know, that's pretty fucking disrespectful. And you're like, oh, I got to know this guy. Oh, how did he feel about you slagging off his character? You know, thinking you knew better. There was an open sky, and we didn't know a lot about her from the comics other than... I thought you just said you did. You just said, I'm a fan of the... Well, I guess... Well, she says I'm a fan of that guy. So I was just really excited about all the avenues that were available to us when we started. Again, we spoke about it. There were so many avenues you could go down. You didn't go down any of them. You just stayed at the start line. You're like, oh, are we going to do... No, we're not going to do this. You know, that was it all over. They had all the elements there that could be explored, and they just didn't bother. So it's like you didn't really make use of any of the avenues that you had. But let's try and get into some of the other stuff. You mentioned that Marvel Studios reached out to you, and that makes sense since I've long noticed that the Marvel brass are all big fans of Better Call Saul. And again, being a fan of something, that doesn't necessarily mean that's going to be brought over to anything else. Kevin Feige noted that it was an influence on Black Widow. Oh, fuck off, Kevin. And then they hired the likes of you, Michael Mando, Tony Dalton, and Kelly Dixon. There are a couple others we'll discuss in a moment, but did they make it clear that Soul was a show they admired and whatnot? You know, as if that changes anything. There were several instances where we talked about character development. No, you don't know what it is. That's evident by the show. You don't understand what character development is. You actually have to give them a character. And especially, because I think sort of once I watched Echo, You then watch. I watched like episode 1 of Arcane, and it's like within the 3 minutes of the episode, it's like you're already getting character. And then you jump into the episode, all the little things that are already building the character, all the characters, and you're barely into the episode. Whereas this, 3.5 hours, you didn't develop anything. I still don't know who she is. So it's like you clearly don't know what character development is. They were very familiar with Better Call Saul. Is that all they're going to talk about throughout this entire interview is Better Call Saul? Because there's nothing in relation to it. And I talked about that when I first met with them. I'm very interested in character development. You know, someone needs to slap this woman, don't they? I'm really getting. She just keeps saying things. It's like that's not in the show though. That is not in the show. And she just keeps saying character development. And character-forward stories, and luckily that's something that they were just really excited about from the very beginning. You know, they talk all this shit, character development was very interesting to it. Oh, what, you mean like everything fucking else ever? You know, they seem to be thinking, oh, this is a new direction. We've never had characters before in the MCU. We've never had it. Never had it at all. We were all like, let's make this a grounded character story and something that is different from what we've seen before. You failed. Let's really let Maya tell her truth. I don't even know what that means. So, of course, that really spoke to me. So that's kind of a quote we've already went over. What else did they seem to respond to in your pitch? Well, it wasn't a pitch in the same way that I've done some others. We had similar takes in what we were hoping for from a character point of view. And so we were really excited. Of course, it wasn't going to be something that was purely out of my head from the beginning. Representation is such an important part of this story. I'm not being funny, but she was represented as a psychopathic murderer. I don't understand who wants to be represented that way. You know, if that's something that you're so obsessed with. You know, here, you know, deaf people, one-legged people, native people, this is our representation for you, a murderer. It's like, how people don't find that offensive, I don't know. I mean, it was the same shit that we've seen with the Marvels. That was all they talked about. Oh, this representation and all that. It's like your main character is a villain. Captain Marvel was a villain. So how is that good representation? And the writers that were on board are such an important part of the story. So it was an open sandbox, yet we had to limit ourselves for certain things. For all of us to come in and bring our different experiences. Because we can't possibly have an imagination. We had 2 deaf writers in the room. We had writers in the room who were enrolled across 5 tribes. So everybody came together and shared experience to build this story from the beginning. So that's why it's a mess. There's no clear-cut idea. It's just, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. You know, we're going over there and then we're going over here. That's kind of the impression I get. It actually reminds me of the way that we started with the Jimmy McGill character on Better Call Saul because we knew so little about him. No, we didn't. We knew so much about him in Breaking Bad. What are you on about? We didn't know anything about him. You know, again, it's just a sign that, you don't know what a character is. You don't know what that is, what that looks like. You don't know what to look for. You know, there's a reason why we have so many characters these days that are shown in such a bad light. Because we have so many writers that don't understand that it's also the little things that build characters. And because they just avoid paying any attention to that, that's why we end up with such inconsistent characters. Just terrible characters. In the first couple of weeks in the Echo Room, we just asked, who is Maya Lopez? I'm still asking that question. Still asking that question, yet to get an answer. What was she like in New York? What would bring her from New York back to her hometown? You know, again, that's another aspect of the show. She came back to her hometown and brought a load of criminals back with her. She also let them know that she was there. And by doing that, putting her family in the crosshairs. So that just something like that already tells me so much about the character. And you know, nothing likable about that. What was her childhood like? But we didn't really get much on that. Even if certain things didn't show up on the show, it was so important to discuss them from for the story. So just to be on the same page in that way from the very beginning was really exciting. And I'm pretty sure, like, I don't know if it was episode 1 or 2, but a lot of these episodes are written by about 5 people, and they're so shit. I don't know how it takes 5 people to write an episode of Echo. 5 people. It's even more embarrassing. Did your writer's room operate in the same fashion as Soul? Clearly not. Conversation to note cards to scripts. It was a little different with something as big and established as Marvel. They have a lot of moving parts, and we didn't care about any of them. That's why Daredevil can't possibly be canon to the MCU. So there was a lot of adaptability in the writer's room, and there was a lot of flexibility in taking notes, bringing them back to the table, and then reworking things we needed to. I think this was all first draft. I think that's what it was. I don't think there was ever, right, we're going to draft it and draft it and draft it till we've got something good on our hands. I think it was just, right, you've had that idea, right, we're just going to do that. And I think some of that comes from the attitude that they have in these writers' room. You know, no one's allowed to go, Mary, that story you just come up with is fucking shit. You know, they all have to just go, yeah, we'll add that in then because we don't want to possibly say no. We don't want to possibly say, no, that's shit. That's not very good. Whereas I imagine if you were in Vince Gilligan's writing room and you came up with something really shit, you go, that's fucking terrible. We're not using that. So I think that is another aspect, especially with like Marvel writer rooms. They're not really, they don't want to criticize someone else's idea. So that's why we end up with, we just have to put it in. I don't want to offend this person. So the processes were very different, but a lot of the elements that you're asking about were still there. There was still note cards. There was still a lot of character discussion. Again, I don't think they had that discussion. And zooming in and out from character to 5,000 feet above to lay out the broad strokes, and then going back down to do a finer break. So much of that same kind of method was there underneath it. Did the edgier tone in which someone got shot in the head and there was blood there, it's not edgier. As if that really adds anything. It's edgy, an edgy tone. It's like, no, it's not. You know, edgy is doing something that is out of the ordinary. You know, it's not just going, oh well, it's you know, it's got some blood. It's like, oh, all right. Did the edgier tone come up early on in the process, or did that come later? I don't know at what point in the process the TVMA rating came in, but we all started to realise pretty early on that this was going to be a gritty and grounded family drama. It's a family drama, was it? Where Echo almost killed her fucking family. And like the other shows that had come before it. Right, okay, well, no, it's you know, again, are they forgetting that they're using elements of the Daredevil series? That was grounded, that was gritty. You know, again, there's no, none of the other shows had that before. Well, no, it did. It was Daredevil. So there wasn't resistance to that along the way. It was like, yeah, this is the story. This is what the story wants to be. This is who the character wants to be. So they go on to ask her, Maya Lopez is such a unique character. I've already said most boring characters. There's nothing unique about her. You know, it's really no different than what we've been getting the past few years. So where do we even begin when it comes to writing for her? We talked a lot about her background, her family, and her cultural influences. We also talked about the similar experiences of the writers who were in the room, because we can't imagine outside of that either. We then talked about what we already knew about her father. Well, all we knew about her father was he was a criminal. That's it. He was just a criminal that was associated with Kingpin. That was it. There wasn't anything else to do with her father. He was just a criminal. It was always Maya's show, and it wasn't about any other character, but the writers and I had watched Daredevil as well. So we were able to sit down together and watch a Kingpin supercut. You know, did you watch the show? Did you not watch the show? Because you go on to say you watched the Kingpin supercut. In my eyes, that isn't enough. That isn't enough research. We only watched the Kingpin scenes from Daredevil our second time through, and watching Daredevil as if it was Kingpin's story gave us a different concept of the relate. Well, no, so you removed all the context, and then you went, "Oh, we've got a concept." Between Mayor and Fisk, again, that's why I don't believe that they actually watched Daredevil, because it's like, no, you don't understand the character of Kingpin. You got it wrong. You clearly got it wrong. And what her life may have looked like when she was growing up in New York City. It's just that she wasn't in the Daredevil show, so she can't possibly exist. There's just, you know, again, nothing. There's really nothing that ties her to the Daredevil series. There's nothing. In the first episode, when you see her put the hair tie on the motorcycle and run it through the dealership's window to shatter it, that scene came out of that as Fisk then bailed her out of the situation. Yeah, that made no sense. I don't really know what she was trying to do. You know, what was she trying to accomplish with that? She just let a motorbike fly out the window, like the police were there. And it's like, right, what did that do then? They were clearly trying to show some sort of, you know, she's a rebel. And it's like, yeah, but why is she doing it retardedly? Why is she doing it in a way that doesn't make sense? You know, you couldn't just have it, oh, she gets caught and that's it. Instead, she goes, I'm going to start the motorbike up and I'm going to let it fly through the window. It's like, all right, what did that do? I don't really know what that was trying to achieve. What kind of trouble did she get into when she was in New York City? And like I said, the things you never saw on screen and that never made it into the script were so informative in making character decisions. So I feel proud of the way we all wanted to stay very much in her shoes at all times, by asking, where's her mind, where's her body, where's her spirit at every moment? At every moment, I didn't know. We were able to make the next right choice for her. You know, I am really getting pissed off by the way they're talking, because it's just like, yeah, but it's not in there. It's not in there at all. You know, I really hope that there's people that don't fucking listen to this moron. Because they start thinking, oh, that's what character development is. We don't develop them in any way whatsoever. For characters to communicate with ASL, the assumption is that you could write in a more concise, economical way. Is that actually the case? They're different language, and so we wrote the way that you would write two languages. We had representation in the room, okay? You know, again, Echo should have been able to lip read. That's just a fact. She should be able to lip read. But no, they didn't go that route for some reason. I don't know why you wouldn't. It would make it, you know, again, they use the word concise. That would make it more concise. Because it's like, all we need to be translated is when she does sign language, but when it's someone talking, all right, we can just see him talking. And then we can go, all right, well, she heard that because she can lip read. You know, that moves things along at a much quicker pace. So that's really what they should have done. I don't know why they didn't want to. You know, was it really just virtue signaling? That's all I can really assume. Because it's just like, why you do it? Why you're wasting time? You're wasting time on, you know, especially when you have the actors in that series that they don't know how to sign language. You know, that, or at least they didn't until they just learned it for this show. That's why everything you know, it takes them a while, because they're like, what the fuck am I doing again? Oh, it's this, you know, it's this sign. So it dragged everything out so much, and just, you know, it was already badly paced. That just added to it. We had an ASL interpreter on set, and some of the writers, the cast and crew, took ASL lessons. It's hard to learn, but we ran all of the scripts. Yeah, they seem to have thought that it's harder to learn than fucking Mandarin. Because Kingpin never learned sign language, and it's like Kingpin knows Mandarin, and sign language compared to that is really it's simple. You know, I'm pretty confident Mandarin is a lot harder. If we put something down in the script that didn't work, Shoshana was really great about saying it wouldn't be said like that. Try it this way. So that was extremely useful, and it didn't happen after the scripts were submitted. It happened during the conversations in the room, and as we were putting it down so we didn't have to do overhauls on the dialogue, the scripts came in legit. Fuck me, this is a really long article, isn't it? We're going to have to just have a look. We're just going to have to pick some of these out. Where are we? Yeah, I think we should probably talk about this one. You spent years writing for multiple characters who defy the black and white labels of hero and villain. So did that give you a leg up, quite literally, on Maya's anti-hero nature? She's not an anti-hero. I don't know why they think she's a villain. She's shown no signs of like sort of being in the middle. You know, there's nothing about her says, oh, it's kind of similar to Punisher. You know, there's nothing there. It's like the Punisher is killing people. He's killing bad people though. So that's what makes him an anti-hero. He's not killing innocent people. Whereas what we have with Echo, she's killed innocent people and never gave a fuck about it. So she is, by description, a villain. She's not in the grey area. She's just a villain. We gave her a runaway to play with. No one said ahead of time she's going to lose her soul to gain what she wants. You know, again, we didn't see any of that. There was nothing like her reckoning with what she's done in her past to get to that point at the end of the show. It's just like, nah, she's a piece of shit throughout, and then she just gets powers. She is granted these powers when she isn't worthy of them. They gave the powers to a bad person. You know, it makes no sense. But we knew off the bat that she's a renegade character who's going to desert and betray an organization. Yeah, it was all about herself. It wasn't to protect people or anything like that. It was just, I want to be crime lord leader. You know, that's all it was. Until she said, oh, I don't want it anymore for some reason. We knew that she would do things with good intent. No, nothing like that. Nothing happened with good intent in this show. Again, it has to. They just have to be delusional, or maybe it was there and they just cut it all out. You know, that's really the only two options. She would do them for good intent and for good cause that were morally questionable. No, what did she do that was good intent or for good cause? She only done one thing, and that was try to become the crime lord by blowing up this, you know, shipping yard. So it was something that I was familiar with and something that the writers were really excited about, but it's a team effort. You know, I would understand this if one person done it, but, you know, 5 people, 10 people. It was not my property at any point, and I would never take credit for something that we all did together, but we were all of the same mind to go in that direction with the character. I just try and skip through some of these questions because it's we don't want to be stuck on it. Fuck me, we've almost been going an hour. That went quick. What's left? Fuck me, there's so much. But yeah, you know, I think we kind of get the idea. You know, it's only going to go on saying the same sort of stuff. You know, just making stuff up that, you know, saying, oh, this was in our show, even though it wasn't. But, you know, again, it just gives you an insight into these fucking idiots. And again, really just shows that you need a good showrunner. You really do need a good showrunner. Otherwise, you end up with crap like this. But I do actually want to look at, you know, outside of Better Call Saul, what this person has actually done. Let me actually, fucking hell, I don't know why my highlighting's playing up today. But, you know, you think you would learn something from, you know, being on a show like Better Call Saul that's highly regarded by a lot of people as just being, you know, top tier. But, I mean, if you kind of, you know, again, there's not really much here. She done Echo. That was terrible. Shantaram, nobody's ever heard of that. The Act, no one's ever heard of that. And Better Call Saul, written by executive story editor for 21 episodes. And you picked up nothing. Ah. So, yeah, it's just, again, just still the continuous problems. Again, whenever they speak, it makes it worse. It just provides more evidence why they're going wrong. And then you just have these delusional fucks lying to themselves. Or just lying to people. Seem to think, oh, this is what character development is. It's like, no, you don't know what it is, though. By what we've seen from the Echo series, none of them have got an idea of what it is. When there's nothing to pull from, there's nothing in there that says, oh, right, this is who Echo is. She's this, that, and the other. She's got this going on. She reacts to this because of this, and this, or this in her past. There's just nothing there. She's just a villain. That's it, and not a very good villain. But that's kind of what I wanted to go over with that. Probably went a bit longer than I wanted to. I'm surprised it kind of, the times went in that quick. But I suppose we'll talk about the last thing that I did want to talk. We'll talk about that last, actually. We'll talk about, because I pulled up another article, but we can save that for after this. What I wanted to talk about was the Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. A game I'm glad I didn't buy, even just by, the screenshots we've seen of it from the, what's on the screen as you're playing the game. It's the meme. It's like the meme that we've seen with, like, I'm pretty sure people say it a lot about Ubisoft, where you got your health bar, you got this, you got that, you got this tells you that, that tells you exactly where to go, all fucking mental across the screen. So that was already like, oh, that looks fucking awful. So even in that aspect, it's like, see, to be honest, I never had any interest in it from the beginning. Just from how the game was described, I was like, so I'd rather have another Batman game, please, or a Superman game. I don't know why, out of all things, you go, let's do a Suicide Squad game, and then come up with this fucking game that they came up with, which hasn't been getting a lot of good coverage. Pretty much everything about it has been not very good at all. So that's kind of been, I suppose there's been a bit of debate about it. People saying, oh, well, it's called Kill the Justice League. What did you expect? And it's like, yeah, you can do that, but why would you want to? In the sort of way they've done it, where they kill Superman, they kill Batman, and it seems to be done in the most disrespectful way as possible. And that's really what people take issue with. It's like, you don't have to do it this way. It's very similar to The Last of Us Part 2. It's like, yeah, you can kill Joel, but maybe don't have this twat bash his head in with a golf club. Maybe not have him out of character to get him killed. The Last of Us Part 2, he was killed off in a disrespectful way. And it's very similar to what we have with this Kill the Justice League. It's one of Kevin Conroy's last performances as Batman. That's already like, do you want to do this? Do you want to do it in this way when it's like that's the voice of Batman? Do you want to disrespect it in the way that you've done? They had time to fix it. They never did. And then even without that aspect of it, it's like, people like Batman. Most people like Batman. They give a shit about his character, and what we essentially have with this game is, it's kind of like, let's smear shit all over Batman. The fans will love that. They don't seem to understand. Well, no, the reaction to that is going to be, people aren't going to be happy about it because it comes across as disrespectful. It's not done in a respectful way. It especially doesn't help when they've said that that this game is canon to the Arkham games. It can't be. You know, at the end of Arkham Knight, Batman stops being Batman. You know, you're supposed to, you know, it's not quite clear. Although I don't know if there's an extra scene, I can't think, but it's, you know, it's not quite clear whether he's dead or, you know, I would assume he's just, you know, he's done being Batman. He's going to disappear into some country somewhere. So that's how it ended. And then they're like, oh, this is canon to the Arkham games, where Batman's back, even though he gave up being Batman at the end of the previous game. So it doesn't really work. It doesn't really make any sense. I mean, if you wanted to do this, at least have it like, oh, it's in a different universe. Because now it's like, what, you're going to fuck up? You know, because I really, like, the Arkham games are some of my favourite games, and you're going to have this be how it actually ends. You know, we'll watch the clip anyway, so you can sort of get the idea. Let me make sure, because I don't want this to be fucking too loud. So we better turn it down a little bit.
You know, Joker used to be real good at hurting people with words. But you...
Alright, let me try and start again, because I missed that fucking at the start.
You know, Joker used to be real good at hurting people with words. But you... Boop. Even when you're evil, you're still too good. You had a good run, Brucey. Flying around Gotham, punching bad guys, cleaning up the streets, causing long-term mental and emotional...
See, that line right there, that kind of just sticks out at me. That, oh, you caused long-term mental and emotional damage to everyone you knew. It's like, what? You know, that already, because, you know, you've heard about that. I mean, what was it? I think it was G4 TV when they were hiring people. They were like, oh, why's Bruce Wayne or Batman, you know, actually a villain or something like that. So that already kind of, I'm like, oh, that's, you know, there's some people out there that just think, oh, Batman's actually the bad guy. He's, you know, he's rich and he's this and that, and he goes out beating people up. So that already, I'm getting the feeling you have a certain attitude towards the character. You know, that line right there, that seems more like the writers coming out than it does actually Harley Quinn.
No damage to everyone you knew. It's our turn now. After all we've been through. Oh. Bet you didn't think it'd be me at the end, huh, Bats?
Are we done with your bad stand-up routine?
Almost. But you always gotta end on your best joke.
You know, it just seems to be so just unceremoniously killed. When I first watched this clip, it seemed like, oh, are the people that wrote this getting a kick out of this? That's how it comes across. You know, it's not just Batman. You've also got the Flash. You've got Superman. You've got I forget the other ones. But it's, you know, and everyone is just like, we just killed him. It comes across. You know, I don't really understand why you think, you know, fans of Batman would be happy with this. You know, it's kind of like, oh, just, you know, we know you really like Batman, but why don't you smear shit all over him? You know, why don't you do something like that? That's kind of how this clip comes across. Yeah, and you know, you've already got people saying, oh, well, what did you expect? And again, it's like, yeah, they don't have to do it this way, though. I mean, the premise of it is already fucking boring. Why would you not just do a Justice League game? That would seem like, you know, better use of your time than, oh, we want to murder all the Justice League. It's like, all right, why? Why do you want to do it? And again, it's like, you could still do this and it would work. I think in this case, it just comes across as, you know, as I said, disrespectful. It's like, you know, you've got years and years of fans behind this. It's like they're not going to be happy with this. You have to do it in a very, you know, a very respectful way as you possibly can. But even then, it's like, well, I don't know why you do that. I don't know why you'd want that as an idea. You know, especially from Rocksteady. You know, you put out these great Batman games, and then you go, oh, this game's canon to that, by the way. Watch how Batman turns evil, and we blast his fucking brains out. How's that for an ending? You'll enjoy that. You know, that would be very satisfying. Not the end that in Arkham Knight we said was the end. No, it actually goes on. He turns evil. He gets shot in the fucking skull, and we watch him as he's dead. It's, you know, as I say, it's just like, what, I don't really understand it. You know, again, you have people saying, oh well, it's you know, what did you expect out of this game? It's like, yeah, they didn't have to make these choices. It's a very similar situation to The Last of Us Part 2. Yeah, you can kill Joel. Don't do it that way, though. Do not do it that way. There is a million different ways you could do it. Do it in the least disrespectful way. But no, they seem to go with, oh no, we're just gonna, you know, we're gonna turn them evil and then we're gonna blow their brains out. You know, as a fan, I imagine we'll all love that. But yeah, I think it just makes it worse that they've said, oh, this is actually after the events of Arkham Knight. That's kind of, you know, the icing on top. That's kind of what really makes it worse, you know, at least for me. But that's gaming for you, folks. You know, we get, you know, not that we don't get any good games, but games like this, it's like, you know, they're mostly not going to be very good. But yeah, I wasn't really interested in buying that game in the first place, just because it didn't look very good. How it was described, I was like, why would I be interested in that? You know, it's like the Gotham Knights game. It's like, why the fuck would I be interested in that? Why not just do, I don't know, another Batman game, Superman game? I mean, you went to the trouble to do the Suicide Squad. Why not do a Justice League game? That would make more money. People would have a lot more interest, and they wouldn't be pissed off by it. But yeah, that's kind of the route that they've went down. Again, I really don't, because after Arkham Knight came out, I was like, well, because there was rumors going about that Rocksteady were going to do sort of, they would, well, not Rocksteady. I think it was going to be Montreal, Warner Brothers Montreal. I think they were going to take it on and continue from Arkham Origins. And I was like, oh, I'm all up for that. I'd love another, you know, another Batman game. You know, I don't mind the Origins one. I think it's a fun enough game with decent stuff in it. Although I'd have to, you know, I'd have to actually go into it to really say what I could think of it. So yeah, when you had rumors like that going about, I was up for that. Because they were going to do the Court of Owls, and some of the stuff that was mentioned, sort of rumored about it, was quite interesting. And then that turned into the Gotham Knights game that came out, and it was just like, I don't know why do I want a game in which Batman's dead? I want to play as fucking Batman. But they went down that route, and then Rocksteady went with, a Suicide Squad game. Rather than, you know, again, I don't know why you wouldn't do a Superman game. Because I'm pretty sure that was a rumor at one point as well. That Rocksteady's next game was a Superman game. Instead, they went with, let's do a Suicide Squad in which we kill all the characters that people love. And basically make them take part in that. You know, because that will be fun. So yeah, but, you know, like I've said, it's even just the gameplay doesn't look very, very interesting. You've already got the just mental on the, you know, your HUD. There's just so much shit going on. Where it's like, you know, it's a very similar thing that came about when Elden Ring came out. You know, in Elden Ring, you've got very little in your you know, on your screen. You know, it's very much, right, you got to try and figure some of this stuff out. And then I don't know what was the other game that was sort of not compared to it, but you know, one game was someone was like taking the piss out of it, and it was just these memes going about. I'll see if I can actually find it, because I always found those quite funny. Just those memes going about. Because I don't know if it was to do with Horizon or Horizon Dawn or something like that. Let me actually see. Because what is it? It's called the... What is it called? The UI, you know, I think. Let me actually see. So, yeah, that was the meme there. Let me just open that up. So, yeah, it was like this meme there. Whereas, I don't know what... I'm pretty sure it was like Ubisoft that was... This was kind of aimed at. Where you've just got all this shit on the screen that you can't see nothing. You know, there's a lot of games like that. You know, a lot of it comes from the whole accessibility sort of stuff, where they, you know, some games go overboard with this, with it looking like this, and that's kind of what the Kill the Justice League looked like. I will actually see if I can find that. Let me see what it is. You know, it's just, you know, they go too busy with that aspect of it. Let me see if I can find it. So it was already from, you know, elements like that was like, oh, I don't want to fucking play that. You know, again, just, it's too busy. I don't know why it's not just fucking opening up. Let me see. There it is. Yeah, that's what it was with this Suicide Squad game. You know, you got all this stuff. You know, again, all you need is you don't need this much shit on the screen. It's just going overboard. You know, why do I need? You know, you got a map, fine. You got your health, fine. That's really all you need after that. You don't really need much more. So even with stuff like that, I'm like, yeah, that looks fucking boring. It looks really boring and generic to play. You know, nothing really about it that sort of interested me from that. I think the main thing that did put me off originally was the fact it was, well, it was an online game, wasn't it? That's apparently what it is. It wasn't, you know, they didn't have a sort of single player campaign or anything like that, whereas like that's what you would expect for, you know, a game like this. You know, there's just a, you know, it's not just this online game, although I don't really know much else outside of that, you know, what this game is. But it's just all the clips are going about now, and it's just like, yeah, I'm glad I didn't fucking want to buy that. I'm really glad. I think that would have been one of those purchases you just be like, that was fucking 60 quid. You know, that was £60 for that. So yeah, that hasn't turned out well, but yeah, they did it in they've just done it in a very disrespectful way. Which, you know, for people that are fans of certain characters, it's like they're not going to be happy about that. You know, I'm not really happy about it because you've tried to connect it to the Arkham games, because it's like, no, that was the end. You know, we were done after that. You don't get to bring them back and then kill them. But I mean, that's kind of what we've seen with a lot of stuff. You know, over at Marvel. You know, they'll bring back like Professor X just so they can kill him. It's like, what the fuck are you doing? I don't know what logic that is. I don't know who's gonna go, oh, that was great. You know, I loved seeing all these characters, I love seeing them get killed. You know, bring them back, kill them. You know, that's how you sort of make people happy. So it's just kind of backwards logic. That's really what it is. But I think that's kind of all we were going to talk about. There was another Marvel thing, but I think we can leave that for now. It wasn't really anything. It was more of just a rumor, so you know, it's not that worth going into. But I suppose that will bring us to the end. Kind of we probably went over that Echo stuff too long. Just fucking, you know, it did just come across as delusional. You know, I'm just like, you're talking about character development. It's like yeah, but this is the show that you made. It doesn't have any character development in it. Yeah, that's no problem, Biffer. But yeah, we'll probably be back for another stream at some point in the week. We'll have to see what goes on. You know, if there's at least a couple things to talk about, then but if there's like one thing, it's probably not much point. Starting up a stream for like, you know, half an hour. I've just had the dog beat my door down. But yeah, I haven't really got much else to mention. You know, we're kind of just doing these streams till I sort of get back into the mood for, so then I can go back to, you know, making the odd video here and there. Although I suppose I could do something on Echo, you know, with that article we went over. But I don't know, there's that much stuff there. We'll have to see. But you know, other than that, I'm trying at the moment. I'm trying to figure out what videos I want to work on for my new channel. I'm kind of, because I want to do something for House of the Dragon and Arcane because the second seasons are coming out. But I'm just kind of like, is there much point in sort of reviewing like every episode? You know, spend like an hour on an episode, because it's just like, you know, if I haven't really got anything new to say, you know, outside of what other people have said, is there much point in doing it? Because I was going to do like I was going to do like 9 videos, just like breaking down every episode of Arcane. But yeah, it's just kind of, it's one of those things where it's like, you know, am I going to have anything new to add to the conversation? So I'm just trying to figure out what I want to do, because we've got Madam Web coming up. I was hoping to get something done before then. But yeah, it doesn't look that way. There's a few ideas for videos I've got. I've just kind of got to figure out what is worth at the moment focusing on. So that's what I'm going to try and figure out tonight. I'm just gonna have to see, because I definitely do want to, you know, yeah, and like you made, like with other sort of films that haven't necessarily, you know, came out recently. That's not another avenue that I do want to go down. But it's one of those things, because it's a new channel, it's like I kind of have to talk about stuff that's somewhat relevant. Before I sort of go into talking about films that, you know, just some random film. Because I do want to do something on that, the film that came out in 2022, Living, the British remake. I do want to do something for that at some point. But I'm just kind of waiting for, you know, a better opportunity. You know, if I were to do that now, it'd get about 10 views. So yeah, it doesn't really make sense to do that. I haven't really been interested in that the Beekeeper. I think a lot of that is just like, it's just, you know, I don't know how, I haven't really heard anyone talk about it. But that was one where I didn't really have any interest in it, to be honest. It might be one that I'll watch one day, but yeah, I've already got so many films to catch up on that came out last year, so I'm gonna have to see. But yeah, I've got to figure out some video to work on, because I've had all this time. You know, I've started the odd thing and not finished it, so I'll just have to see. But we'll have to finish off there. As I say, I'll be back at some point. It will most likely be Thursday or Friday. You know, there's been a few developments. I'll boot up a stream and we'll go over it. But for now, I must go, and I will see you on the next one.